When we're looking at an equation that's telling us that the lines are parallel, what we really want to focus on, the first thing we want to think about is slope, and 9 times out of 10 using that will guide us to the right answer. And indeed, that's one of the solutions that we have to solve for this problem. What we can do is we can figure out what the slope of this line is, knowing that this one is also the same, and then plug in the slope of this equation into the equation for here with the variable missing, and then solve for it. So what do I mean by that? Well, we know that the slope is figured out by y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this is what the SAT does, right? They tell us that, we'll make this x1, and then this is y1. They tell us that they want us to essentially find slope, but they try and like put it in a tricky way. Do we know how to use the equation of slope? So let me ask them in a very tricky way. But once you realize that's what it is on these kinds of questions, it becomes a lot simpler. So what we see here is, this needs to be y2. So this becomes 2 minus 0 over 0 minus negative 5, which just becomes plus 5. And we see that our slope is actually equal to just 2 over 5. That means that this slope is also 2 over 5. Now, you could say that like, oh, let me just rise 2 over 5, rise 2 over 5 until you get to figure out what P is. You could do that. You can also use this method, which is a lot more universal. And figure out that, well, 2 over 5 is going to be equal to whatever the slope is here. Or I can also put it in other ways. If I were to plug these points into the formula for slope, where I make this x1, y1, x dose, y dose, and then we write it out here, 0 minus negative 4, which is the same as just adding 4, over x2 minus x1, so that would be p minus 0. That makes it very easy because we realize that's just p, and we set that equal to 2 over 5 because we know that that's what the slope is. Well, now I can just rewrite that, I'm sorry, yeah, 0 plus 4 is just the same as 4. So 4 over p equals 2 over 5. Well, 4 is twice as big as 2, which must mean that p is also twice as big as 5, which makes that 10, and that is the correct answer. You can also cross multiply here, where you get 4 times 5, which is 20, is equal to 2 times p, which is 2p, which just means that 1p would equal 10. Now, what you can also do, and this is, you'll see some similar figures here, is recognize that these can also be drawn out as triangles. Now, let's see that, let's consider the rise of this triangle here. If we were to make this into a triangle, the length here would be 2, and then the run here would be 5. Even though it's negative 5 here, just think about it in an absolute value distance, right? Like this traveling distance is just 5. Now, if we were to do the same thing for this triangle, the run here would be p. We don't know what that is, but we do know that the rise is 4 because it's starting at 0 and then it hits here where the y coordinate is negative 4. So that's just 4. And then we can see that these are, because the lines are parallel, these triangles must also be similar. And we recognize that 5 is to p what 2 is to 4, meaning that we can rewrite this fraction as 2 over 4 is equal to, I want to stay to what we have, so I put 2 on top, which means I need 5 on top, p, and then that means that we can now rewrite this as we cross multiply. 2p equals 20, which means that 1p equals 10.